Okay, so this is video number 25 in the Red Flags of a Narcissist series. Video 25 is red flag number 25, which is triangulation. Triangulation basically means that there are three people involved that form a triangle, right? So a common scenario for this would be the narcissist, his wife, and his girlfriend. And so what's going on here is the narcissist has the wife, right? He, for whatever reason, is attracted to something in this other girlfriend. Maybe she's attractive, maybe she's got money, maybe she's got something that he wants, right? Some form of supply. That's what narcissistic victims are generally referred to as narcissistic supply, because they supply, everything is for the narcissist's ego, right? So they supply the narcissist with, food, clothing, sex, shelter, status, public image, money is a big one. So he sees something in her. So then he decides, well, he's going to go run off with the girlfriend for a little bit, and then down the road, he'll come back to the wife. And their mentality is very much like, they'd rather beg for forgiveness than ask for permission. That's kind of the narcissistic motto. That's why, and it's amazing. It's really amazing when you see victims who have been in these relationships for years, if not decades, just how manipulated they really, really are. And oh my God, the stuff that they are putting up with, that's kind of become the new normal in their life, which is so sad, right? And they keep holding on to this hope that this person will change, because really, it's because they're probably not familiar with narcissism or antisocial personality disorder. So normal people tend to think that we are in relationships with other normal people that have the capacity to change. This is true if the person's normal. If they have a personality disorder, like the two that I just mentioned, they don't change. If anything, they get worse with time, they get worse with age, and they get worse with therapy. So I did an article on that too. It's like the 4 main reasons to not take a narcissist to therapy or an antisocial. When I use the term narcissist, I should probably start using the term like narcopath, because most of them are kind of this hybrid between like a narcissist and some sort of like sociopath or a psychopath, which is now called antisocial. But they all tend to kind of walk that gray line, and they're both equally destructive. They're both nothing but trouble. So anyways, so triangulation. Okay, so what was I saying? So you have the narcissist, you have the wife, you have the girlfriend. He's running over to the girlfriend, and of course he's telling the girlfriend all kinds of things, right? It's called a smear campaign. So he's doing this whole smear campaign against his wife, and he's saying the wife, she's some sort of like crazy, bipolar, addict, alcoholic, bad parent, neglectful spouse, and things were great way back when, but they're not anymore. They're in separate bedrooms. He's telling her all these lies about the wife and this girlfriend, and he's telling the girlfriend, but she doesn't understand me like you. What we have is so deep, and it's so real, and it's so, I've never felt like this with anybody before. And of course, this girlfriend's feeling the same way because of red flags number kind of 1 through 6, right? Like it's this whole idealization stage. And so he's feeding her everything that she wants to believe and everything that she wants to hear. And he's backing it up probably with amazing sex. So she's having this whole chemical reaction. These hormones are going off. She's being doused with dopamine by the love bombing. She's being doused with oxytocin from this amazing sex. And she's in this like chemical hormonal fog, right? And so, he's telling her all of these things, and he's saying, nobody understands me like you. My whole past is filled with all these terrible, crazy people, right? What is this? Unusual flag or red flag number 6. My whole past is full. My parents were crazy. My siblings were crazy. My wife is kind of crazy. But you are special, unique, and different. Victims buying that. So when things kind of fizzle out for whatever reason, and he decides to go back to the wife, and he may just decide to go back to the wife. Narcissists are perpetually bored, right? So to kind of spice things up, he might just decide, this is going to be fun. I'm going to just drop the girlfriend and just watch her suffer. And that's his entertainment. That could be his only reason for going back to his wife that time around. He wants her to come crawling back, crying and sniveling and snotty and, I love you, I'm so sorry, I'll do anything, and what did I do wrong, and I feel like I'm going to kill myself, and he's just like, feeding his ego off of that, because the more you suffer, the more, what is it? It's like lyrics to a song. The more you suffer, the more it shows him that you really care. And that's exactly what it is. And a lot of times this whole triangulation it drives people to suicide. And of course the narcissists love that, which sounds so kind of terrible for starters, but almost like counterintuitive, because a lot of victims think, he must just not know how much he's hurting me, right? If I can just get him to understand this pain, like how important he was, how much pain he caused, then maybe he'll be accountable for some of it. Maybe he won't be ignoring me. Maybe he won't be so hurtful, right? And so, and then of course the whole flying monkeys things starts happening. The wife is probably becoming a flying monkey. Her friends, other people are becoming flying monkeys, because of course now the narcissist is going back to the wife, launched the smear campaign against the girlfriend, saying that the girlfriend is some sort of form of, crazy bipolar, addict, alcoholic, bad parent, all these things. And she's just so obsessed with him, and she was throwing herself at him. And by the way, she was saying all kinds of terrible things about the wife. And did you see how she just is so fixated on our children? She's crazy. She's really just crazy. And so the wife is like, that crazy bitch, that crazy home wrecking bitch, right? And she's all upset and then becomes a flying monkey. And then it's just the flying monkeys, it's just craziness, right? And so the victim oftentimes will write a letter or will text or some sort of communication with the narcissist saying, this is how bad you hurt me. And I just want you to know how important you were to me and all of these things. But that's really one of the last things that you want to do with a narcissist, because it feeds their ego so much. And they might not necessarily want to hurt you anymore. Like they might be fed, like they're not hungry anymore, but they know that they can get a good source of supply off of you. So they're probably going to come back around to you, and then it's going to go through those extreme, like highs are really good, the highs are really high, the lows are really low. And it's because they know they can evoke those extreme emotions in you. So the best way to handle a narcissist is to go gray rock or no contact. And I'll put some links below in the description so you can read more about that. So, but triangulation doesn't necessarily have to be between a narcissist, a spouse, and the significant, or not the significant other, the girlfriend or the boyfriend or whoever. It can be between any three people. So it could be the narcissist, it could be their spouse, and it could be their child. Or it could be the narcissist and two children, or the narcissist, the child's teacher and the child. It could be the narcissist, the neighbor and the wife. It could be, the narcissist, the therapist and the spouse. And I've seen this one a lot too. This is one of the reasons I strongly recommend to victims, if you suspect that you are with a narcissist, and if you're thinking about going to therapy, I would say talk to the therapist ahead of time and say, these are my suspicions. I'm seeing a lot of red flags. I'm really feeling that my partner's possibly a narcissist, possibly like a sociopath. And I really would like for you to try to rule that out when you meet with him. He's incredibly charming. Narcissists and sociopaths are very, very like superficially charming. They can talk their way into anything. They present very, very well, oftentimes. So it's not unusual for them to charm a therapist. You definitely want to make sure ahead of time that the therapist is really familiar with narcissistic abuse and not just, studied it in college once. You want to make sure that they really are familiar with doing assessments, that they really know what they're talking about. I have just encountered way too many victims, myself included, that have gotten tied up with therapists who are very well-intentioned but very misinformed or very uninformed about what narcissism really looks like. They were also under the idea that most of society's under, as far as what is a narcissist and how do they act. And there's different types of narcissists. I have on my website, there's a tab there under Start Here. It's called Words You Need to Know. Under that, in that tab, if you scroll down, I should probably take that out. I did like a whole intro about it and how it's important. But there's a list of vocabulary. Anything that you are finding on not just my website, but in general about narcissism, especially like the different types of narcissist, words like flying monkeys, hoovering, dosing, you know, covert, overt, somatic, malignant narcissist, cerebral, those kinds of things. Those are not official terminology. Your therapist will not know what you're talking about if you were to go in and start talking about stuff like that. So highly recommend that you go in, you print that out, and you say, and maybe you even have a session where you kind of catch your therapist up to speed and say, this is the terminology that I am hearing, that I'm using within these different support groups. And because they're going to have their own more clinical wording that they're going to be using to describe things. And you really want to make sure that you are on the same page with them, so you are adequately, you know, being heard, that you're able to communicate effectively with them, and that they're able to understand kind of what you're saying too. So it's very, very important. And let's see. So the triangulation. So, you know, if they can charm the therapist, then that's just terrible. But it does happen. That's why it's important to find a good one. And with the children, they will do certain things like, let's say, for example, the spouse, okay, they've been cheating. We'll use that example, right? And so the spouse is like, you know what? I've had it up to here. This is the 5th time in 6 years that I've caught you cheating. And I can't do this anymore. I'm so tired of all your damn lies. And they, you know, of course, they're going to be like, well, how can you do this? Right? Like, really, how can you leave me? I said I was sorry. I'm willing to do whatever it takes to save this marriage. And then they might recruit one of their children or all of their children. And they might say, you know, your mommy wants us to divorce, and you don't want us to divorce, do you? Because that's going to be sad, and daddy's going to be really sad. So, you know, go talk to mommy and tell her that I love her so much, and that you want, you know, me to stay, and mommy and daddy to stay together. And so, of course, these kids, and it doesn't have to be just little kids. I've seen it happen on I've seen it happen to adult children, where they feed, you know, these half truths, because right, everything is kernel of truth wrapped in a big ball of a lie. So then these children come back to the spouse, and they become flying monkeys, right, for the narcissist. And they're like, Mom, you know, I don't want you and Dad to get a divorce, and I love Daddy, and how can you do this? And all of a sudden, the spouse becomes the bad guy. The stress and the pressure becomes really intense. Or people from their church, I've seen this happen a lot, unfortunately, too, where they will go to a church person, you know, who's, again, probably just another regular, normal person who thinks that they're dealing with a regular, normal human being, which they're not. And so they're very easily manipulated. And so the narcissist is, you know, crying. He could be sitting there crying. I am so sorry. You know, I've been drinking, and that's why I cheated. And this other woman threw herself at me, and I was in a low point in my life, in my spiritual life. I was at a low point in my spiritual life. And now I've rediscovered God. And see, I've gone to church twice now, right? Like, that's what they do. Well, I've done this 3 times now, so what's the problem? Like, you should trust me by now. I mean, it's been 7 days, right? Like, it's crazy how they, just their degree of entitlement, you know, they just expect you to get over it. Like, get over it. It's annoying. It's annoying that you're not over it yet. So, so of course, then this church person comes back and becomes a flying monkey, and then is triangulated, and now she's telling the wife, well, you really need to go back. I mean, he has found God, and God can work miracles, and God can change people, and God doesn't like divorce. And see how upset your children are over here? They don't want you to divorce either. And so, you know, and you know what? Maybe they're even a church minister, right, or a church counselor, and they're saying, I read people really well, and I understand when a person is truly sorry, and your spouse is really truly sorry. I mean, he was in there crying, you didn't see that, but I can tell he really loves you. And so, you know, every relationship has its ups and downs, and you know, but the good relationships, they just stick through it, through thick and thin. And so now this woman's sucked back into it until the next time that he lies and cheats and steals and lets the whole family down, right? And that's why it's one of the many reasons victims don't leave. I will do a video on the reasons victims stay, because I think that's really important that that information gets out there. There's a huge misunderstandings about that. So, any normal any questions, comments, concerns, frustrations, ideas for videos, you want to share part of your story, you just want to say hi, you can find me on Facebook. Narcissist Support is my group, or my website, narcissistsupport.com. I will see you soon for video number 26, which is gaslighting. Okay, see you soon.